So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and in case I don't see you, good night.
What's that movie?
I
Good
feel like it's
Morning
the Truman
Vietnam. Is
Show.
that
Oh no, no, no.
no?
I'm pretty sure that was from the Truman Show with Jim
Oh,
Carrey.
I'm not familiar with the Truman Show.
Are you not? It's actually quite an
Mm-mm.
interesting concept. It's
Okay.
he plays a guy who basically is grown up and raised and lives his adult life on a stage. He
Oh,
It's called the Truman Show because he is the star of the show that the rest of the
oh,
world watches. He
wow.
thinks, and it's interesting, right? Because it's um his whole life, his whole reality is fabricated.
Okay,
It's
right.
created so that people have something to watch,
Yeah,
and it's an interesting commentary on what it could be that we're experiencing as our own reality.
like a bit of a Matrix
Well, yeah,
tale.
yeah, like
Okay.
simulation or Matrix, or we're someone else's entertainment kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
which I find pretty interesting.
Indeed. Well, first and foremost, thank you to those of you who noticed that we did not post last week.
Well, that's yeah,
Uh, I'm sure you miss us. We're here. We missed last week. We
2 weeks
skipped.
really. Yeah, we skipped
Yeah,
one, and
we skipped for very good reasons.
yeah. So Cassie's grandfather, Joe Kindle, passed away on last Sunday, Sunday before last,
Mm-hmm.
and so we were just dealing with all that. We didn't record on the Sunday night because we'd all just found out, so it was not ideal.
Yes.
It was the same day kind of thing, and then the weekend was the wake and the funeral. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we didn't get one out on Friday either. Just working through the week. It was an absolutely terrible week, as you could expect, but
Yes.
everything went really well. And you know what? For those of you who are listening, we talk about uh, you know we 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 don't often revisit the whole sort of point of the show,
Mm-hmm.
which is, in our mind, it's just about creating a community of people who want to enjoy themselves, want to be part of a community, want to better themselves. I don't know. There's a lot of different things
Mm-hmm.
uh, that this show is geared towards, but it's ultimately about, you know, we talk about good conversations with good people. And it's just to
Yes.
remind yourself that things are already good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we often look to the future, or are unsatisfied with our current situation. But in reality, most of the time, where you're at is pretty good. What's going on, problems and all, pretty
Yep.
good. There's
Yep.
always something to be grateful for. Uh, and case in point, I got some of the absolute best friends in the whole wide world. Um, Jordan drove down on Friday night
Mm-hmm.
to the wake for Joe and drove back the same night to go to work the next
Yes.
morning. Like,
He's stellar
yeah,
like that.
he's an amazing guy. He's
Yeah.
an amazing person, and we should all strive to be like him.
Well, that's very sweet. There's this like innate personality trait of his, and I like I see it in his parents too. Like they've it's obviously something that has been like, if it's not a nature, it's a nurture thing. So
Right.
regardless of where it came from, it exists. But he how do I explain it? So w- he feels the need to show up for people he cares about,
Yeah.
and I don't want to say will do whatever it takes, but he will go to great lengths
Yes.
to do
Yeah.
such a thing.
Hmm.
And this was no different. And I don't want to say compared to other things, but in the grand scheme of things, this was an easy one for him. Uh, and I know that like, my friend put it this way a couple weeks ago for an event that I had to miss, and I was like feeling on the fence about. And she said, there will be other runs, because it was a run that I was missing. She was like, there will be other runs, but there won't be another first communion. It was
Yeah.
William's communion. And I said, she just like framed it and put it in
Oh,
those
that's right.
words. And it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
simplified the whole experience. And it made how I was feeling inside, I don't say justified, but it was what my brain and my heart felt, right?
Hmm.
I was like, this is what I ultimately want, is to go to William's first communion. Like I don't want to miss that. I will, if I go to sleep tonight and I haven't gone, like I will be so upset. And I think for Jordan, like I don't want to speak for him, but I'm fairly certain that he would have felt the same, that, if he hadn't gone, he would have gone to bed that night and been like, I could have feasibly done that and I didn't, and I won't get the chance to do it again. Like
Yeah.
he has a
Regret
really good grasp on um
what's important.
yeah, and showing up when, I don't say when you should show up, but like kind of.
I
Can we
always
say
said it
that, when
like,
you should show up for others, when other people need you and your support and to show your love? Like that's, he's very good at showing up in those times. Obviously other times too, but like especially in those
I
times.
always tell Cassie, because there's been moments in our life where we had the option to participate in a thing or not to participate or to whatever, and
Okay.
you know what I mean. And I said,
Things overlap and you have conflicts of interest. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I always said, it's there's the right choice is often obvious, and whether or not I want to do the right thing, it's important to do the right thing. So there's
Mm-hmm.
been things I've gone to where I said zero interest and zero desire to go or whatever, and but it was the right thing to do for one reason or another. Maybe it was to support the kids, or fuck, I don't know. But that's kind of the way I
Yeah.
put it. Like
Yeah.
you kind of have to put yourself after some things.
Yeah. Theo Vaughn was talking about this with somebody on his podcast. They were like, you just have to put your ego aside often. Like our egos get in the way of a lot of these
Oh, don't get me started on egos. Egos the
decisions.
worst.
Yeah.
It's the
Egos
absolute worst.
is, and we talk about it like a big bad guy, but like it's essential, because the
Hmm.
ego is ultimately what helps keep us alive, I
Hmm.
think. Like you have to care enough about your own shit to be like, I'm still here and I'm showing up and
It's funny
I'm gonna
though.
do life. That's the ego too. But you gotta keep it in check enough too, that it's not,
Yeah.
oh, me all the time, right?
Well, it's weird too
Massive
because
narcissist.
we we we
Yes.
sorry. Uh
Before we get too far though, I do, like, I want to offer my condolences
no,
to
thank you.
Cassie, to you, to the whole family.
It was a
I'm
pretty
sure,
emotional affair. It was
I bet. Yeah.
There was a guy that flew in from Austria.
Stop.
Yeah, to just to be there. Like
Okay, and where was Hal in all of this? Because wasn't he supposed to be away?
yeah, so so for those of you who are listening who don't know, Hal is very close, very very close family friend of
Yeah.
the Martins,
He might as
and
well be related at this
well, he
point. Yeah.
calls him Uncle Joe, right?
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah.
basically he and Heidi are cousins,
Mm.
and they grew up kind of like brother and sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Hal, unfortunately, it just happened to be a terrible timing situation. He was in Germany for his aunt's funeral,
Yeah.
and his situation was
That he
crazy
was in
because
charge of.
yeah, he
Yeah.
basically had to plan to be there for at least 3 weeks because there was a few moments where they lost her. She was in the hospital and then she somehow checked out or something like that on her own. They couldn't
Oh
find
my
her.
God.
And then when they finally found her and everything got sorted and she ultimately passed, it took a long time before he was contacted and all this kind of stuff. And so he had to go over, he had to find her, find all the relevant, their laws are very different than ours. So
Yeah.
he needed to find and bring with him and also produce while he was there a whole bunch of documents.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of at the mercy of their, I guess you'd call it
Paperwork.
public service or
Oh
public
my gosh.
servants or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if we went
Yep.
to Service Ontario, you're kind of waiting on
Oh my
them
God.
to help you out. And
As a foreign individual,
well, he
that
does
must be
speak
tough.
German, which is helpful. because his father's German as well, and
Okay.
anyway, so he knows the language. But all like, I mean, at the end of the day, it still sucks. It's one less
Yeah.
hurdle,
Yeah.
um, and Joe was so important to him that I felt really bad that he couldn't be there, and
Yes.
I'm
He
sure I'm
felt
sure he's
bad.
just
Yeah.
wrecked
Sure.
over it. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, it was a great.
Is one of those very rare moments where kind of what I was saying earlier, like you only get one of these.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had two situations where he only got one of them, and
Yeah,
one of them is like he was the executor,
he's the
more
only
or
one to
less.
sort out the estate. Yeah, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
so that's real. Like that's a real chart topper, if you
Mm-hmm.
will, as far as cannot do again.
Yeah, it's so shitty. It's so shitty.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
But
sure he's
he got to
not
he got to
super
say his
jazzed.
goodbyes, which was important.
Yes.
Jordan and I were quite fortunate too because we'd seen Joe the Saturday before he passed,
Mm-hmm.
which was
Mm-hmm.
really, I mean, it was a little heartbreaking, but it was also just really nice and I think meaningful for Joe as well.
Yeah.
That we
Yeah.
went in and shot the shit with him for a bit. But just to circle back, uh, Jordan and Jenna, we love you guys. You've been so
Hmm.
supportive to us, and you've been such great friends. And I can only hope that the people out there have people like you in their lives too, because it makes
Thank
a
you.
world of difference. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh man. Thank you. I feel like yeah, I'm just sad that I couldn't go too.
Yeah,
We were like
for
trying to
yourself,
suss that
even.
out. Yeah, yeah, for my
Yeah.
ego.
Well, I mean, it's like a sinister form of FOMO kind of thing, but
Totally.
you
Yep.
don't really get a chance to process it until you confront the thing that you're trying to process.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't
Fair.
know. I thought it was pretty. It was really emotional to be there. Cassie and I got to be pallbearers, which was
Wow.
nice. We were supposed to be able to sit with our families after pallbearing up the
Yeah.
the church aisle kind of thing, but they sat us separately. So all the other cousins and this fellow from Austria were kind of just on their own to uh, comfort themselves. But thankfully, Cassie and I were with each other, and we
Mm-hmm.
got to be there for each other, which was really really helpful. Um,
Was there a eulogy? Like,
so the
what
Catholic
was that
Church is
like?
pretty impersonal from that point of
Oh,
view, and it's
okay.
really unfortunate because you don't really, they talk about celebration of life,
Yes.
but you don't really get to celebrate the life. You kind of just get to listen to the priest go through the ceremony, which is a nice ceremony. It's
Mm-hmm.
meaningful and it's heartfelt. But
Mm-hmm.
I was a little upset because the oh, and just to clarify before I forget, there was a lot of local family and friends that showed up as well.
Okay.
So I mean,
Okay.
thanks to everyone who took the time out of their days to say goodbye to Joe.
Yeah.
Um, but the priest, they go through the mass and they do the sacrament of the dead. I guess I don't know what it's called.
Mm.
Um, but you get baptized in your first communion and marriage and last rites. These are all, I think there's like 7 sacraments in the Catholic faith.
Okay.
But anyway,
And death is one of them.
well, the funeral process, I guess I don't know the
Okay.
right terms, but
Okay.
um, so the priest does, there's a reading and then there's the gospel and the priest does the homily, and that's usually where that would be in my mind the time for the priest to make it personal, make it about
Yeah.
Joe. And
Sure.
to a certain extent, I'd say for about a third of the homily, he did make it about Joe.
Yeah.
But then he kind of pivoted in a way I didn't really agree with. I understand where he's coming from, but I don't think it resonated really with the people that were there. Not a
Okay.
lot of whom are deeply Catholic themselves.
Right. Yeah. You're
But
speaking to a mixed audience, if you will.
and it was fair game, if that's an appropriate term to use. Joe was an incredibly faithful guy, so he
Mm-hmm.
went to church every Sunday. He was very active in the church and the community,
Mm-hmm.
and so the priest kind of zoned in on that as something to really uh,
Focus on.
focus on, emphasize on in
Emphasize.
his
Yeah.
homily. But it
Yeah.
really came across as sort of like a recruitment to the church kind of a
Yeah.
pitch.
Yeah, I'm noticing they pitch a lot of these.
And I mean, I get it. It's like it you're supposed to, as an active member of the faith, you're
Mhm.
supposed to witness, which is basically advertise your faith, advertise God, advertise
Yeah.
the church kind of thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
try to encourage people. Basic, maybe not encourage people to join, but you're supposed to be like a little Mormony about it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Okay. Yeah.
this is who I
Please come
am. This
with
is what we
us.
do. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I get where he's coming from his point of view. It seemed perfectly appropriate, but I was like, maybe it,
Not a good time.
it might have been better if more local priests were around. I don't think this guy was from the parish. I think
Ah,
the
okay.
guy who normally would have done this, Adrian Chapu, would have
Mhm.
absolutely nailed it.
Mhm.
He would have crushed it.
Mhm.
But everyone was on vacation or away, so they got this friggin' sub, and
Sub.
he did a great job. It was a beautiful service, but man, you kind of missed the mark on the only personal opportunity
Yeah.
in the whole. I'll call it shindig. Pretty
Yeah.
offensive term, I'm sure. Uh, But there was a luncheon at the Germania Club, and Heidi got up and she had a little speech prepared to sort of give a bit of a synopsis on Joe's life and his upbringing
Oh,
and all
that's
that kind of
lovely.
stuff. And that was really nice, and uh, that would have been the eulogy to that kind of thing.
That was missed. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was still really nice.
Because that must have been hard for Heidi. I feel like it's such an emotional time to talk about your parent when it's fresh. Feelings are
I was
fresh.
surprised because I was sitting leaning in the corner looking really cool in my suit having a drink, and Heidi was just locked in.
Oh,
She was,
okay. She
I
had a
feel like
task, maybe.
yeah, I feel like she was like really kind of just zoned out to allowing herself to feel, and I think she was just really focused on getting through the thing. Because I looked
Mm-hmm.
around and like Cassie was tearing up, I was tearing up. There's a lot of tears while she was saying the stuff, but she got through it really, really strong, really well.
Wow.
And
Wow.
wow,
That's hard to do.
it
Yeah.
is, it is. The killer for me was when we were at the grave site, and there
Oh
was four
boy.
chairs beside for Heidi and Dale and Heidi's brother Paul
Yeah.
and his wife Steph.
Yeah.
And they went around, I guess the funeral home directors went around to all the flowers and took out all the roses and handed them to people so they could place them on the casket after it was lowered.
Mm-hmm.
And Heidi and Paul were the first ones to stand up to do this, and you could kind of see like so basically Heidi just looked over, leaned up, and gave Paul a kiss on the cheek,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, after she grabbed his arm, kind of stuff, and they went up as brother and sister. But it wasn't an immediate thing. They got up, and I don't know if it was just her collecting her thoughts or whatever, but it felt to me like sort of like a reassurance between the two of them, like we still have each other. I'm still here for
Oh.
you. You're still here for me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really that fucking got me. Um,
Fuck yeah. Yeah,
but
dude.
and all of this is good. You know what I mean? It's a sad occasion, and people are
Mm-hmm.
crying and stuff, but I think crying's important. I think
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a
grieving's in.
massive part of the grief process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just I was I was happy that it sucked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was it was
It was meant to suck. Funerals are sucky.
it was a yeah,
Really
the
are.
the amount of suck is directly proportional to how important that person was in your life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. And like when it's your grandparent or your parent, it just like explodes exponentially for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, big busy week. Very very exhausting. It was just
Emotional.
emotionally exhausting. Everything else went fine.
Takes a toll. Yeah.
And let me tell you, so many people helped out. There was not a single meal that they had to worry about for like the 2.5 days uh, that this was going on. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Wow.
like City Hall where Heidi used to
So
work, they
helpful.
bought a big Madamique order platter kind of thing for everyone for
Whoa.
Friday evening for supper, and
Yeah.
then Kelly and Ian took care of supper on
Saturday.
Saturday night after the
Wow.
funeral, and then
Okay.
there was leftovers and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were. It was one of those things where you realize, you know, you've got the right people around you because they
Oh,
had so many hands willing to help.
totally.
Then it made things just a little bit easier, you know. So
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh man. Yeah, it's like those little silver linings that you look
it's
for because you're like, this really sucks really bad. What can I think about that's
well, even on a day to day too. It's hard to express gratitude when you're going through the daily grind, and like I say, you're in the trenches just trying to
yeah.
fucking survive the day. It's hard to sit back when you've got you're
when
tired, you're
when your
sweaty.
kids are yelling at you and you're
Yeah,
supposed to have started your podcast 10 minutes ago. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Like
Well,
that.
or you're staring down the barrel of 2 weeks of nights, and
Mhm.
you kind of just anticipating what's coming.
Oh, the Sunday before Jordan goes on nights, I'm always in a terrible mood, which doesn't help
No, it's the
lift
Sunday
spirits at all, but I'm
scaries.
I can't not do like I I would love to be a better actress in my life maybe and just be like, "Oh, it's fine. Life is so
Yeah, yeah.
delightful."
La di da di
Yeah,
da.
but I
Just,
know I'm about to
just,
go into yeah,
yeah,
to a couple
just
rough
totally oblivious, or not even oblivious, just like ignoring the
Oh my
reality.
god. I'm sorry. This is kind of going off on a tangent. I've been having this thought lately where I was like, I wish I was an idiot. Like I wish
Yeah.
I was just blissfully unaware and that I didn't have like is it inappropriate to say I wish I was just dumb and like I don't know.
No, because
Able I don't know.
ignorance
I
is
don't know.
bliss.
It is. So like how do I do that? Somebody sign me up.
I think, no one asked me, but I'm going to give my opinion anyway.
Sure. Okay, go.
uh, so I think some days are just so fucking hard,
Okay.
and uh, a
Is
lot of
this a
people.
hot take from Colin?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
We'll find out. It
We'll
might be a
find
tepid take.
out. Okay.
Uh, Tepid takes with Colin. Um, I think I used to agree with you.
Okay.
Ignorance is bliss, and just being unaware, because there's so many things in life too where you're like, oh, I could have done without knowing that. Do you know what I mean? Like this
Uh-huh. Yep.
didn't need that information. I wish you had.
Control Alt Delete. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Oh my
right.
god, kids today will never understand that. Shit.
Oh man.
Oh boy. Okay. Sorry.
But I think the more you're grounded in what's true, and true is just a totally nebulous thing to say. I think.
Oh, chat mess. Sorry, Colin. I'm listening.
Oh, we got chats going on.
Something's happening. Missed you guys. Oh, thanks, Frank.
Frank.
Sorry, I didn't see that till
Yeah,
just
you're one
now.
of those guys too, man. We love you. Thank you so much for your support. I'll make sure Cassie sees this message too, buddy. Um, yeah, I think ignorance is bliss, and just living your life in stupid awe would be probably a lot of fun, probably really easy.
Right.
But I think the more you're stripped from the protections of reality, like the more
Mm-hmm.
intelligent you become, the more aware you are of who you are and the world around you, and what things really are. As an
Mm-hmm.
example, I say this all the time. Uh, Everything that it matters to us, everything that we put our sweat, blood, and tears into, everything that we stress about, especially, it's almost all made up. It's
Yeah.
almost all arbitrary. Pardon
Fictitious,
me, and fake.
self-made. Yeah.
Now you're thinking, well, no, man, like work is real. Yeah, but this idea of working 9 to 5, this idea of even just power dynamics at work,
Yeah.
the idea that just because you're my boss, I have to talk to you a certain way. I'm not allowed to tell you how I think because of who you are. Like, to me,
Mm-hmm.
that's absolute bonkers. I cannot believe that.
I think that's a dated thing also. I'm realizing. It's
Yeah.
like it's a lot of what you're describing, I think, is based on a lot of like old rules and systems
Yes.
that we have outgrown and that we've had to outgrow because the world is different.
Hmm.
The world is now so connected that like the way that we do things here is not the way we do things in other places. And anyways, this all ties into, I think, what you're saying is like you don't have to speak to a person because of their title a certain way. If an asshole is an asshole,
Yes.
is an asshole. You
And
know,
that's
I
for
was that kind of what you were.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm stressed out, I'm going to be late for work, or just even expectations.
Yeah.
I got invited for dinner. Do I bring something? Do I not bring something? How, you know what I mean? All this kind of stuff. It's gotten so complicated that we forget how to be who we are.
I share an example of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was this moment that I felt so disarmed by what this person said to me. I didn't know how to respond.
I love it already.
So, and it was like it's such a basic situation. I drive a bus. On snow days, there's no buses. One of the parents who I've known since our kids were in junior kindergarten because they've been in the same class this whole time. Um, we've kind of been like, we've, I'll say befriended. I don't know we're acquaintances.
Be
Maybe a bit
acquainted.
more than acquaintance. Yeah. So she had asked me if and when snow days occur, can my daughter come to your house because I'm in walking distance of the school? I said, of course. That's absolutely, yeah. Because what do you do about childcare when there's yeah, you know what I mean? Like she still has to go to work. I don't. My day is free. So
Not anymore.
on this particular day, she came. It was a snow day. She dropped off her daughter, and I was like circling back to what I had texted her earlier. And I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know if you had clients today or didn't. So I just like, I asked to confirm. And she looked at me and she said, Jenna, it is not your job to know my schedule. And I was like, you said something that is actually so obvious just now, but no one's ever like
Made it so clear to you.
removed the accountability that I was putting on myself.
Hmm.
Like, because in my mind, I should know her schedule, I should know my schedule, I should know Jordan's schedule, I should know my mom's, my mother-in-law's, my father-in-law's, yours and Cassie's schedules. Like I should know what everybody I know is up to, right? Because if I'm a responsible person, then I know what everybody's doing, whatever this, you see how this thought process makes no sense when I say it out loud. But in my mind, it's
I feel like my camera got just fucking fuzzy.
oh um but yeah, it was that moment of, I don't know what else to call it but disarming. Like I was disarmed by what she said, just these few words. Jenna, it is not your, like, you don't have to worry about remembering my schedule. That's
Yeah.
okay. And I was like, you're right.
The
Thank you
reason
for
why it
saying
worked,
that.
the
I'm like,
reason,
why have I been doing this to
well,
myself?
A,
It makes
because
no sense.
it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
You have
Break it
ADHD.
down for me. Oh, okay.
And you're trying desperately to make sure that you do everything right so that you can fit in.
100%.
And
Yeah.
what that whole example, I mean, it illustrates that perfectly. And then someone, this is why it works so effectively, is because it was exactly the right thing to say. I what
Yeah, she has probably a normal brain.
I'm talking
I'm
about,
like,
I'm talking in such broad strokes, right? Like everything's made up.
okay.
I
Okay,
think
okay.
about that in sense of like, I have a job and the timelines for my job are very loose and broad.
Okay.
The expectations
Flexible.
for my job are pretty high, but not
Okay.
hard to achieve.
Okay.
And then so there would be a lot of days where I don't have to work so hard.
Okay.
Maybe I don't have to work at all.
Lackadaisical.
It ebbs and flows like everything else, but there are a lot of days where I'm like, you know what? I might have to work for an hour, maybe two, and then I'm pretty
Hmm.
much done.
Okay.
But then I'll feel bad
Okay.
if I'm not at work or at my computer doing something work related until 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So I have to ask myself, why do I feel bad about this? And then I just tell
Yes.
myself, I'm like, you know what, Colin, your brain doesn't work like other people's brains.
Yeah.
There's no incentive for you to do this task. There's and I say that because not because someone didn't tell me to. I've done what I've been asked to do. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to go above and beyond. The timelines aren't pressuring me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like they're so broad that it's almost impossible to care about it because it, you know what I mean? It's not a
Yep.
problem for so long.
Yeah.
And then I go, you can live your life where every day you show up to work and you just pray no one sees you not working. Or you can be a full grown man and make decisions based on the information that you have, which is so I try really hard. It still happens, but I'm trying really hard to get myself out of those automatic negative thought cycles where
Mm-hmm.
and anyone listening, ask yourself the next time you're stressed out or you're getting angry and impatient, whose
Mm-hmm.
expectations are you trying to meet right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're
Mm-hmm.
probably not yours. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think of this all the time when people say things like, "Oh, my house is a mess," or "Sort," you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
look around, it looks pretty clean to me.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you think that you didn't do enough?
Right.
And it almost has nothing to do with the amount that's being cleaned, but it's the idea that you're supposed to clean before people come over.
Yeah.
That kind of
Yeah.
stupid shit, right? Like we we don't even realize how much of it is just unspoken and you just seen it and experienced it and saw it growing up, that this is how you
It's
think the world works.
it's conditioning for
Yeah,
sure.
it's
Yeah.
conditioning, but none of it's
Yeah.
fucking real. And
No.
it's really hard to buck that though.
It's I remember this woman I went to school with. Uh she would have been in her 40s when I did this program, and I was like quite curious about her because she was like doing like a new career later in life, and I was like, oh man, this must be tricky. Anyways, she was from the Netherlands. I say this because culturally they're very like neat freaks, I guess. And she was telling me that where she lived, and I think this is like probably Netherlands wide, but she said, in the town where she lived, in the spring, everybody would just kind of like check off all these springtime tasks that you had to do. One of them was cleaning your windows. And this would happen multiple times a year, but especially in the spring. Like you weren't coming up on springtime and not cleaning the exterior, interior, and all that stuff about your windows, shutters, whatever you've got going on. And she was telling me that she had been so busy with the program and with her son at the time, who was, I think, 8, that she hadn't had time. And she was talking to her mom back home on the phone. And she was like, oh my gosh, mom, I haven't had time to go out and clean my windows. And her mom shamed her for not taking the time to do it. She's like, this would never, like, this is unacceptable. You have to make time to do this. You blah, blah, blah. And this is a perfect example of what you're describing, which
Hmm.
is it's made up.
Hmm.
Because I looked at her and I was like, no one around here cleans their windows and everybody's doing just fine.
Yeah.
So, like, it's going to be all right.
So
And
and
I
this is
understand that there was a time when that was like an essential component of maintenance for your house.
yeah.
Because if you didn't do that, then your wood windows might rot, fall apart, whatever. Um,
Yeah,
it's
everything's
not the
based
case
in good
anymore.
reason.
Yeah,
But
now our
but like
windows
you
are made
said,
of vinyl. You
yeah,
don't have to do that.
all of
Yeah.
these things become non-issues and we still cling on to these ancient ways of guiding
Yes.
our lives. So
Yes.
instead of instead of trying to meet other people's expectations,
Yeah.
which is, and I say this because this is something I feel like I have struggled with.
Okay.
And I just assume, as I'm learning, that none of my issues are unique. I assume that many
That other
people,
people struggle
yeah.
with this. Yeah.
And so, talking about meeting other people's expectations, I wonder how often we sit down and try to question ourselves on what our own expectations are and how
Oh
we can meet
boy.
those instead.
What are some, do you know some of your own expectations of yourself?
Yeah, like for example, like I would like to be patient with the children,
Ah, okay.
especially for when 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 they are having difficulty with their emotions.
Yeah.
And this isn't gentle parenting. Like I hold my
I
kids
agree.
kids
I don't think
accountable,
this, yeah, yeah.
but I'm trying to teach them that having feelings is okay. How you
Yeah.
have those feelings is shapeable and matters.
All feelings are okay. All behaviors
Yeah,
are not. Yeah.
yeah. All
I
feelings
say
okay.
this a
Yeah,
lot
I like that one.
to Anson.
I'm gonna remember that one. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
if I don't write
I
it down, I won't. But
it's actually something I saw on TikTok. There was a mom who was like, and what do we say? All feelings are okay. All behaviors are not. And this little girl is just like the most precious little thing ever. And I was just like, I'll take advice from you, little
yeah,
girl. Yeah.
the so you know, uh, the response that I'm familiar with when I was having difficulty regulating my own emotions was impatience
Yep.
and maybe a little bit of anger. And so that was my default with my own children, right?
So it's again that conditioning piece
Yes.
where it's been conditioned that this is the response to this type of event.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if the kids are pitching a fit
Yep.
and I'm not in there getting angry at them trying to stop them from being children, I'm in my head
Quit it.
I'm thinking if dad was here, he might be judging me thinking I'm not parenting well enough. I'm not disciplining them well enough, or I'm not controlling the issue enough. Now,
So is he does this is a deeper question possibly, but like do you picture your parents there when you are being a parent?
not usually,
Okay.
in the sense that I'm a little too into the trenches to be able to see that up and out kind of
Okay,
thing.
okay, okay. So you're
Um,
not like doing things based on their perception of you if they were there,
I
or do you?
I think that's a separate question.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
maybe I just misunderstood the first
Yeah.
one.
Sorry,
I
maybe
I
I was asking something that you might have taken literally, and like maybe you don't picture them right next to you, but like you imagine
Yeah, you nailed that
them.
assessment. I definitely did take it
Oh, okay.
too literally. So no, I would in the past, especially as a young parent, when I don't really think that people put enough thought into how to parent.
Mhm.
They kind of like, oh, especially on the guy side, like job done. I'll see you in 9 months. Um,
Oh boy.
so I definitely was thinking
Yep.
that these were expectations that might have been communicated to me. Now, whether or not
Mhm.
that's actually how my parents would have responded to me in that situation, like why aren't you doing this way kind of thing,
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
it I can't say that's the case, but I had that expectation, right? I
Okay.
thought that that's what I should have been doing,
Okay.
and I thought that's what he would have told me to do.
Right.
And that's based off of conversations, my own upbringing, all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
um
The tried, tested, true type of
and I figured that out
experience. Yeah.
because when I got impatient, and therapy helped out a lot too.
Yeah.
But like stopping myself and asking myself why I'm feeling this way, why am I feeling like I need to be impatient and upset with them, and drive it home that they did something wrong.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So now I
That's a
try,
whole other.
like one of my own
Yeah.
expectations that I get upset about now, that
Mhm.
when I don't meet it, is when I am impatient with them, when instead of needing discipline, they just need someone to understand them.
Okay.
They're not being bad, they're just having a bad time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I try really to lean back on that, understanding that as much as you want to treat them like little people, they're still developing. Like, uh
They
As
don't have a fully formed brain. They have a
no,
very underdeveloped human brain, and everything. We talk about kids, they're little sponges. They are, and they are absorbing everything about their environment. And if they see you behaving in this way, I'm going to use as the example. If they
yeah,
see you, like, I'm not an expert, so like,
no, but they're
don't.
gonna think this is how problems are
But
solved.
yes,
It's the
yeah, this
same
is how
reason.
I solve problems. This is how grown adult, in your case, men, interact with children. This is how I should expect grown-ups to interact with me. Um, will they it also kind of starts setting, I think, some groundwork to their future selves when
Mm,
they want to come to you with a problem when they're 10 or 11, and they're, who knows, bodies are changing, their lives are
yeah,
changing, their brains are changing, and they're like, oh my god, well, that one time when I spilt the gummy worms on the carpet, there was a huge explosion, and you know there was chaos, and it felt uncomfortable in the house for a week. Like, this is just a pretend example I'm coming up with, but like, will they internalize that and then be like, I'm having a real problem, but don't feel comfortable talking about it because I'm worried that I'm going to create another explosion,
yeah.
and then be uncomfortable for a week or whatever it is. Like, our brain also does this really fun thing where it like imagines the worst possible scenario. And I
Yep.
think that's part of our reptilian brain to
It's a
protect
it.
us. But
Yeah, I think it's a particularly ADHD thing too because
oh, okay, okay.
you try
Interesting.
to anticipate as much bad things happening so you can try to prevent them from happening.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
try
yeah,
to have
yeah.
some control over the chaos, but you can't.
No.
I was gonna
And
say,
like my friend said, that disarming thing, you don't have to.
mm-mm,
But I think in this case, you mentioned ADHD brains, but I think this happens perhaps with a variety of, we'll call them neurodivergent brains, is like the empathic people, I suppose in any brain format, are going to develop these kind of um, pathways of behavior
yeah,
to
no, for
try
sure.
and, yeah, avoid, like you're saying, avoid problems from happening
Well, and the more
because,
you can fit in,
yeah,
it just equates to fitting in is important because if you don't fit in, you're going to be alienated and then cast aside. And then if you're alone, you don't
yeah,
survive,
yes, and
right?
that is a
That's
reptilian
like
brain
reptilian
thing.
brain as
Yeah,
fuck. Yeah.
reptilian brain 101.
So, and think
Don't
of
get left behind. Yeah.
the we look around and we always compare ourselves to other people.
Yep.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yep.
You'll never be happy as long as you're measuring your paycheck to someone else's or the way this husband and wife manage their personal lives compared to this husband and wife, right? Like there's no blueprint to success. It's about understanding who you are and your needs
Mhm.
and then having those met. And then if
Mhm.
it's in a relationship, then you kind of work together to achieve that, right? And
Mhm.
that's why people who grew up in abusive homes tend to be in abusive relationships because they get told I love you, I love you, I love you, and then see all this chaos,
Yes.
all this negative, all this physical, verbal abuse, whatever their experience
The
is,
conditioning.
and their brain equates that to love. Well, this
Yeah.
must be what love looks like.
This is, yeah. Yeah.
um
Totally.
you can did you see the TikTok trend where it's like millennial parents talking to their older children going, I'm going to start a phrase and I want you to finish it.
No, but this sounds amazing.
So
Okay.
it's things like I brought you into this world and I can, and then
Take
any
you out of it.
take you out, right? But these kids are going
They've never heard these things
no, they
before.
haven't, right? Like
Oh
so
my
and
god.
and that's a perfect example, right? It's just about growing up, we laugh about those things, but you don't realize that the child you were hearing those
Yep.
translates that into your love for me is conditional. I have to
Yes.
perform or behave a certain way in order for you to love me. And that's why women or
Wow.
I guess people get into abusive
More often
relationships.
women, I think.
And that's why it's also
Yeah.
harder for them to get into good relationships, because when someone actually does show them love and honesty and
Hmm.
trust, they don't think they're worthy of it. They think that either they're being lied to, it's dishonest,
Yeah.
or I don't know, there's something else wrong with them. But it's hard
So
for them to accept it as the gift that it is.
I like I can't like I've not been in an abusive relationship. That would be really dramatic to say. But I have been in relationships that were like not healthy.
Hmm.
And I can only speak of it on like this very, I'll say, like small scale. I don't know, because
Well,
I haven't,
you're actually marginalizing yourself here.
I suppose, but
You're justifying something. You should just say what you want to say without trying to, because what you're thinking is there's other people that have been in worse situations
they
than you,
have,
so
yeah.
my experience must be less important.
You're right. Maybe it's not less, it's just it's my experience, and so I can't speak
Right.
to the level of pain, anguish, and abuse that some people have. But I will say for myself, anybody who's been in a, we'll say, unhealthy, emotionally unhealthy relationship will see and appreciate somebody who treats them well right away. But yes, I can definitely recognize those feelings of like, I'm not worthy of this. I don't deserve this.
Hmm.
Um, there's almost a sense of comfort in going back to the mess and the
That's the hard part.
disorder and the
That's why I
chaos
like those
because
chicks
it's
with the black eyes and the gas.
comfortable.
Oh, honey, you can leave him. Like they don't,
Right.
because they uh, they understand how to manage the chaos, and
That's what your brain knows how
and
to
your
do.
brain's,
And
you're right, your brain's wired for it. So it's like,
yeah,
this is the way the world is.
familiar. It's familiar. And so I remember and like, I don't want to say I got out of all of this from reading books, but it helped a lot to read books that taught me what a good relationship should look like. And so I was like able to see that for what it was without being so suspicious had I not read these books. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I feel like specifically when I met Jordan, it felt too good to be true
I
for
felt the
sure.
same way when I met him.
He'll be so happy to hear that. um and it is disarming, and it's like I don't want to say I took it for granted, but I was like in denial about what was happening
Yeah.
because of it. Because I was like, there's no way that this person who is like emotionally healthy, not toxic, doesn't fucking gaslight me, all this stuff,
Bro.
is into
Preach,
me.
preach, sister. I feel the same fucking way.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a strange place to be, and the I don't want to say the easiness of it, because like that would be like it's obviously still work to be in a relationship with another person, like we're two different people. But
Hmm.
the fact is that that helped heal a lot of those things that I was not, that would have like taken me back to those bad situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was telling Jordan about this. It was in a podcast I was listening to, Leanne Kreischer, wife of the party.
Mm.
I want to give her credit for this because she was saying that I think it was something a therapist told her in the past, but she was saying that you look for the things to heal in a partner or spouse or, significant other. And if you're able to heal those things with that person that has these healer traits, and it's not something they're like bringing to the table. They're not like, hey, I'll fix all your emotional problems, you know what I mean? But if you can identify that like this is what I need to be better, be a better me, then you can work at that slowly over time. However, if you see in this person the traits to heal but the healing doesn't happen. That's like a whole different type of relationship. But I feel like slowly over time, I think that I have done a lot of healing, and without Jordan, that would not have been possible.
Yeah,
Like,
because you weren't in a
hands down.
place where that could happen, or y- the the situation wouldn't have been supportive enough for it to take place.
Totally. Totally. Like
Yeah,
he has all the traits and the support and like the personality and like the willingness and the interest and whatever I need to heal me. And this is a lot of it, I think, is done subconsciously. And but obviously a lot of it I've been in therapy, so that helps too. But if I was doing this and then going home and then, my spouse or significant other was like, "Oh, go into therapy again, fix all your problems this time." You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like
yeah.
that's not it. So
Or I believe Kesha said, "Your love is my drug." Yeah,
oh well.
I so to kind of
I went on a tangent, sorry.
no, I think that's really awesome, and I think it's important too because uh, I picked out a few things from that. Number one, I mean, you need other people, just in general. You can't do everything on your own.
Oh my gosh,
You
yeah.
can't
Yeah.
survive this place on your own. So find those people,
Yeah.
keep them close, and be willing to be honest and open with them.
Don't
Be-
isolate
yeah,
from others. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
um, healing isn't an easy thing to do. So doing
Mm-mm.
it in the right way and with the right people matters.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might be, I think of the people that, have tried therapy, but they didn't have the right therapist. Uh,
Makes a big difference.
or,
Big
therapy
difference.
was
Yeah.
going well,
Yeah.
but then after every session, they got to go back to this environment that just
Breaks them.
is suffocating them. And it's so
Yeah.
hard to see all the things you just discussed and to look beyond what's right in front of you and see things for what they really are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all that stuff's tough. I think to illustrate my understanding of what you just
Mm-hmm.
discussed, I see that whenever I behave in a way that's contrary to the things that I've been working on, or it kind of flies in the face of stuff I've learned about or discussed in therapy,
Mm-hmm.
I immediately think that Cassie in her brain goes, she kind of writes it down on a list. Like, why are you even going to therapy? It doesn't work. You were just there and you just did this thing. You know what I mean?
She would never.
Well, that's right, because she has what she is to me, what Jordan is to you, right?
Yeah.
She has the patience and the understanding. She's emotionally stable enough
Yeah.
to recognize that even if, you know, I'm 12 years into therapy or 12 years after therapy and I've
Yeah.
been doing great, you still have bad days.
Yeah.
You still struggle because that's sort of the essence of this experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a struggle, really.
Yeah.
Um, Stephen Colbert, I don't know how I feel about this, but he said he is grateful for all the bad things that have happened to him.
Oh boy. Okay.
So he's a deeply religious person.
I was
So he
gonna say
believes in
that's like a
God.
very big. That's a huge statement.
And I'll say what he said.
Yeah. Sorry.
He said, I believe he says he's grateful for all the bad things that happened to him because he's grateful for life, and life is a gift and suffering is a part of life. And you
Mm-hmm.
can't be grateful for life and not be grateful for everything that comes with it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a menu you can pick and choose from.
Mm-hmm.
It's a one shot deal. You have to be grateful for everything that comes because that's this experience.
Okay.
Um, Now, I think that's a lofty statement,
Yes.
and I think most people in their lives could probably be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who've had some truly horrendous things happen to them, um, that they might not agree with that, like,
Okay.
you know, rape, sexual assault, murder, whatever. Like, there's all kinds of
The
reasons.
dark,
Truly dark stuff.
the dark stuff.
Um,
Yeah.
and we talked about this a bit earlier with the ignorance is bliss kind of thing. Like, on the one hand, bad things happen to you, but on the other hand, if you've been able to process it and make sense of it, or not, but
Mm-hmm.
you've sort of made your peace with it, you kind of get a more true understanding of who you are, if you've come out on the other side, if you've chosen to decide to make it strengthen you instead of weaken you, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I, you know, I think I'm more grateful now to not live in bliss and have a deeper connection with Cassie,
Ooh.
because I'm aware of things that are more important than, say, just a physical connection.
Mm-hmm.
I have a better relationship with my kids because I'm not treating them like a daily task that has to get done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much more aware that I only have a certain amount of time with them, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying my best to A, value that time, and B, make that time as much as possible memorable, in a positive way for them. So I
And for
don't,
you.
well, I mean, these are things I'm trying to do. I'm not always
Yeah.
doing it, but
I want to tie in, and I probably have said this before, but I remember Cheryl, my mother-in-law, sharing with me that she remembers the years when the boys were young, like 6 and 9, I guess, kind of time, where she like jam packed every evening with events, like extracurriculars and stuff like that, to like keep them busy and like be active and blah blah blah. She was just so fucking stressed out about it, and she was angry all the time. And she said that she woke up one day and decided, I don't want to be the angry mom that my kids will remember as angry mom.
mm-hmm.
And she said from that day forward, she like changed her ways. And I don't think a lot of people often successfully do that. But what you're, I think, describing is like just that. Like she didn't want her kids to remember her
Mm-hmm.
a certain way, but she also didn't want to remember their childhood as being rushing out the door every
Mm-hmm.
night, pack this, super stress, running around, blah, 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 taking them to two different activities every night of the week, like just out of control, right? And
Everyone's exhausted.
everyone's exhausted, nobody's having fun. And what's the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there
It's
is
because
a huge piece where it
you,
was her wanting them to remember her positively
yeah,
too, and for herself to remember their childhood
well, it's
positively and not be like, thank God
keeping up
that's
with the
over.
Joneses too. Everyone else is doing
Yes.
this. I better, or I'm a bad parent, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We, it goes back to the ego thing, I think, that you talked about, where ego is, it's really good. It's a survival thing. It helps us cope with
Mm-hmm.
this fucking cruel place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, and you joked, you said me, but the thing that sucks about ego is it doesn't let you focus on the parts of you that you should focus on.
Such as.
Well, it wants you to focus on the parts that other people see.
Oh, I see. I see.
How much money you make, how good you dress, how
Yeah.
fit you are, what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you have, what kind of job, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
friends you associate with. These are all the things your ego focuses on. But what it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't focus on is how much sleep you got, how healthy are you eating, have you exercised regularly, when's the last time you had a good conversation with a friend, made
Mm-hmm.
meaningful connections, read a book, done anything for you that benefits you.
Fills your cup.
And when you prioritize yourself, it means you're able to show up better for those around you as well.
Yeah.
But we don't live in a society where, like, my job, we say, what's it, there's like a couple different things that they say to, one's like God, country, self, kind of thing, like the order of,
Oh, okay. Okay.
service and duty.
Yeah.
Like, our society wants us to care for ourselves the least amount possible.
And it's interesting because we have such a like focus on mental health kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
that is spoken about, but it's to me not like I read sometimes like 10 tips to help your mental well-being or to boost your week or whatever. And all of those things are so consumerist based.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, none of these things are like actually helpful. It's like, go, I don't know, treat yourself to a spa day. And I'm like, yeah, that would be nice, but like not everybody has the means. Like maybe a spa day for someone is like a big reach.
Yeah.
Like, can you give me some like attainable options? Like
And
maybe go sit outside and meditate for 10 minutes. Like I think that would be so healthy. Doesn't cost you anything except your time.
I think
Uh anyway, sorry.
no, it's
You were about to get into something.
no, I mean, like I said, I like the meandering flow of the conversation. I want to just circle back to Stephen Colbert.
Mm-hmm.
I think gratitude is important, but I think it's really easy to be grateful for all the bad things that have happened to you. This is going to sound callous to someone, I'm sure.
Okay.
It's not meant to be. But when you're rich as fuck
Okay.
and you're a national, international celebrity,
Stephen Colbert.
yeah, it's
Okay.
easy to be grateful. It's no different than COVID when they're all like, we're in the same boat. Like, no, it's the same storm. You're in a super yacht. I'm in an inflatable dinghy. We're
Yeah.
not having the same experience.
Yeah. I'm being tossed around the ocean. And
I
you're like, woo, this champagne's delicious. Yeah.
yeah, we didn't get any champagne on our fucking boat.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think the hard part with those things, I hate clickbait so much.
Okay.
Um, but they don't put anything in context. So they say do this, do that, do this, do that, but they don't say um, you almost have to want to be a different person.
This is kind of what I was thinking
And you mentioned
as
this
you
with
were
Cheryl
talking
too.
earlier. Yeah, like you have to teach your ego almost to want these other things,
Because most of
because
the
I
sorry.
wonder if your ego is part of like your conditioning. So if you grow up, say, with parents that are like, we need to buy the bigger yacht, we need to go on 16 family trips a year, we have to go to Disney every year, we have to, buy the biggest car, buy the biggest house, we have to get all of these things like birthday parties and events and throw galas, shit like
Hmm.
that, whatever. If you grow up watching that, then you're going to think that all these things are what's important too. But I wonder if, like, the real trick is teaching your ego this is what's really important, and then having your ego do the work with those things.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that what you were?
yeah. Because like everything that happens to you growing up creates your subconscious framework, which feeds your ego.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the things about your ego that you don't like are being fed by your subconscious. So you can't
Yeah.
really change your ego, and that's why things like meditation work
Yeah.
because it like you get to distance yourself from the things that are the problems.
Yeah.
Um, your and we mentioned this earlier. Your brain develops habits,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets wired a certain way, and so oftentimes before you've even made a decision, before you've realized the decision needs to be made, the decision has been made. And
Right.
that's why habitual problems are a thing. That's why addictions are a thing. That's why people can go through life kind of not aware of what's going on because they're just running through the motions. And
Yeah.
so wanting to change forces you to sit down and go, okay, why am I really impatient with the kids and acting this way every time I see these behaviors? And then I
Mm-hmm.
had to stop and think about it, and I discuss it with my therapist a bit. And then I go, yeah, I think I'm just modeling the behavior that I saw.
Totally.
I'm not a fan of it. And I'm also, this is just an aside, not just trying to deal with things better now, but it's so that when they're older, we can have a good relationship too. I
Yeah.
don't want them, I don't want to not have conversations when they're adults. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like a huge part of my what's it called, not invasive thoughts, uh
Intrusive.
intrusive thoughts, thank you, is will I have a relationship with my kids when they're older, or will they hate me, or blah blah blah. And I started listening to Mel Robbins recently, And on one of her episodes, she has on an assistant who at the time was pregnant and has since had her baby. But they were talking about motherhood and parenthood and what does that look like and what do you do? How do you do it right? How do you do it wrong? And like, spoiler alert, she was like, there's no right or wrong. It's as you go, you learn and adapt and change. But um man, she just talks about the kind of parent she was. And she's like, I was a shitty fucking parent. And she said there were days where her three kids would get up and get dressed and feed themselves and make their lunches and then wake up their parents who were sitting on the couch passed out because they'd been drinking all night, because they were in like huge financial distress and weren't managing it well. And she's like, I can't believe my kids took care of themselves. She's like, I'm so proud of them. But
Is this Mel Robbins?
Mel Robbins, yeah.
She was the drunk one?
Yeah, she was the drunk
Damn.
parent. And you look at her now and you would never
No.
expect that. But I was just like, oh my God. I don't want to say I felt inspired, but it was that reframing my experience now and like listening to her talk about I was a shitty parent and this is why, and how she has a relationship with her kids that is great. And she's like, I don't think our relationship has ever been bad. She's like, because throughout, she's like, I've been honest, I've been present, and she's like, I did my fucking best with what I had at the time. And she's like, I look back and she says, I recognize it, but she owns it and she apologizes to them. And like, she said one of her kids is like, Mom, I know you're sorry, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, but like, I really am. I really messed up. I need you to know that. And they're like, okay, fine, whatever. But like, I think a lot of it is just authenticity, honesty, sharing, and then showing up when your kids need you to show up.
Need you to be there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that
Yeah,
repetitive
it's a lot.
apology kind of interesting, because to
Okay.
me, she would have lied a lot in a
At the
previous
time.
life,
Oh,
and
okay.
her kids would have known that.
Yes.
It's easy to spot a lie, especially when it happens all the time. Like, I'll
Okay.
pick you up from school, or I'll make you breakfast in the morning. These
Right.
things don't happen, right?
Yeah.
So I think in her mind, as healed as she is, every time she apologizes for what she's done, she thinks her kids are hearing the same lies.
Okay.
I
Okay. I
think
wonder
that's kind of
your
my
take.
my yeah. That's worth nothing, but I
It's
think
interesting.
what's really really powerful, and that is the courage that it takes to, because a lot of people would just kind of wallow in their self pity and their shame. Like, I'm never going to be better than this, and even if I do, I'm always going to be the person that used to be like this.
Yeah.
Um,
At my core, I'm still this piece of trash. Yeah.
yeah, but especially the older you get and the more the things that you do impact other people around you, there's a price to pay.
Yeah.
It's harder and harder to square up with that bill when you come to face it, but at the end of the day, uh uh you know it's not like, I don't know that things happen for a reason per se. I just know that things happen,
Mm-hmm.
and they can either get better or they can get worse, and people can accept your apology or they can't, and all you can do is control yourself in those situations. And so if you take accountability and you've apologized and you've stopped that behavior, um, then you got nothing to do but hold your head high and keep on keeping on,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't live your life for other people. Even as a parent,
Totally.
you want to say that, as a mom, like, you would absolutely lay down your life for your children, but you're not living your life for them. You're living your
No.
life and they're a part of it.
The, yeah. Yeah. Arguably a huge part.
Arguably,
But
some days they're less than others.
ultimately, ultimately, yeah, they become a part of your life. And I wonder if that's like one of the, I don't want to say the difficulties, but in being a parent. Like, I think of parents who live vicariously through their kids or whatever, like
You watched
force them to do things that they were into because, well, this is what this family does or whatever,
yeah,
right? Like that
like
sort of
they run
narrative.
5Ks for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Bleh.
And so it's kind of like you also have to let your kids do their own shit,
Be their own
make their
people.
own mistakes, be their own people. They might not be into all the same stuff you're into. Like,
Terry Crews, I want to
yeah,
reference 1923 in a second, but Terry Crews said this interestingly. He said he got into building computers with his kid, and the
yeah,
bottom line was, he wasn't ever interested in electronics or computers or anything like that,
mm-hmm,
but his kid was.
mm-hmm,
So he's like, I can either wait for him to come to me or I can go to him. But as the parent, I should probably take an interest in his interest to
okay,
have that relationship with him.
sure,
And I think that's exactly what you just said.
yeah,
They're a part of your life, but they're not your life. You're not theirs. You need to, like anything else, you're working with each other to kind of make it work as best as you need it to, or
yeah.
as good as it can be. Um, sorry, not
1923.
yeah. There's you've seen it.
Yes, I'm trying to think if I've seen all of it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Well,
Not the new scene, but anyway, yeah.
Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford played Jacob and Cara
Dutton.
Dutton,
Yes.
who are James Dutton's brother and sister-in-law.
Yes.
So James Dutton of 1883 fame
Yes.
settled Montana, one-man army, and then he died, and his brother and his sister came to help out, and then eventually running the ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was a character in the show who had a miscarriage,
Mm-hmm.
and Cara doesn't have any of her own children. All the other Duttons are her nieces and nephews.
Right.
So Jacob and Cara don't have any of their own kids.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this poor lady had a miscarriage, and she was really upset because it's 1923, and there are different expectations for women back then,
Mm-hmm.
and she basically was feeling like a failure, like she wasn't able to achieve her purpose, blah 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
all this nonsense that some people still think today. Um, and fortunately, her husband was a really uh, he did a lot of stupid things in the show, but this was a really top notch moment for him.
Mm-hmm.
He basically said, Aunt Cara doesn't have any kids. Do you think she has no purpose around here?
Mm-hmm.
And she's probably single handedly responsible for the success of the ranch during that time frame. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. She's
uh,
such a ball buster. It's awesome.
well, that's another great example of trying to meet other people's expectations instead of your
Yeah.
own. What do you want in life? What do you want to get out of it? Who do you want to be with? Who do you want to be around when these things happen? And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know where else I was going with that, but it just felt like there was more
But
to
it was
say.
I think it was you were, I think, sharing an example of other people's expectations of us and how we're not living for those.
Yeah,
And
it's
but then also, like, look at it from a different perspective. Like, just take a second and see it from another angle, because the framework that we see things may be negative, and then you talk about it with someone else and they're like, oh my gosh, isn't that so great because of this and this, and you're like,
yeah.
I never
Perspective is a
even looked at it
powerful
that way.
thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like zoom out a bit, you know. just zoom out until like you're
Yeah.
a little speck and nothing else matters. And like it's crazy. I don't know. I'm trying so hard to step back from the things that I've been told are important
Yeah.
but aren't. Like I'm trying to care less about work, not from a
Oh, I wanted to say something about your work. I remember being in a salaried position, and my impression of when you're in a salaried position is, yes, this is the time frame in which you're given to do this work, but at the end of the day, you're getting paid by the year. So if the work is complete and you're done before 4 o'clock, 4:30, whatever, then you just worked really efficiently that day. I don't know, but that was kind of the take that I was given at the time.
I mean, I think it makes sense. I think it's an exchange.
Sure. Yeah.
You've asked me to do these things, perform these duties. In
Yeah.
exchange, you're giving me this and this and this, whatever
Yeah.
benefits, all that shit. What I hate is when the expectations change, but the compensation doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
We have these things called routine orders,
Okay.
which are basically just local orders that tell you, do's and don'ts for the base that you're on, the standard work day, PTs from this time to this time,
Mm-hmm.
work goes from 9:30 to 4:30 or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So when I'm saying like I feel bad,
Okay.
I'm still thinking these routine orders tell me I'm supposed to be working from this time to this time.
I see. I
So
see.
it's salaried, yes, but it's not really. And
I see.
they couldn't pay us hourly because overtime would fucking kill them. Um, so it's
Totally.
just like a weird. It's the army. It's just a different understanding and expectation. But fundamentally, I agree. I
Mm-hmm.
think whatever the compensation arrangement is, um, as long as you're getting from me what you've asked for, then there is no option for conversation.
Right.
If you
Yeah.
don't like how I'm going about this, then you should have addressed this at hiring. And I think that's why a lot of
Years ago.
years ago,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and again, I don't mean me. I'm talking about private companies and shit like that. Where,
Yes.
but I don't think people are um, viewed as members of a team or a family. Oh, come on, we're all part of a family. No, fuck you. Yours
There's
is the
still
back
a
that I'm going to ride to success, and I will break it as many times as I have to.
yeah, I feel like there's still a mentality shift that is currently happening. I was thinking about this with my work. Sorry, I know we're probably approaching the end of time here, but
Feels like it.
I had this thought today where when students behave badly, I write a behavior report form. And the report form's purpose is to share with the school and the parents what the student's been up to. And these forms only exist for negative behavior.
Oh, you can't give them a
And
kudos?
and this is my thought. I was like, I would so much rather fill out a form for my students that are doing so good, who don't get any credit, who are helpful and um, caring and genuinely are showing leadership skills
Yeah,
at a young age.
just being good people.
Yeah, I remember, on my bus this year, it's a bit of a different dynamic, but last year I had kids ranging from JK to grade 8 all in one bus. So it was quite a spread. And there was this one particular student I had taken over from a previous a driver that started the route at the beginning of the year, but like didn't have intentions of doing it full time. It was just a fill in. Anyway, um, and he had pointed out, this particular student is trouble. Keep an eye out for them. And I thought to myself, okay, you know, thank you for the heads up, I guess. But I also had in mind, like, I will make my own judgments about
Yes.
the students
Yeah.
and I will create my own
Maybe they're just trouble for
assumptions.
you, pal.
Well, that too. I said, it makes me, when people say stuff like that, I'm just like, okay, what caused the
Yeah.
trouble to
Did you
start?
ask why?
Right. Like, where did this originate? I start becoming like a detective. Anyway, um, my first week, sure enough, that student was like making a bit of a kerfuffle, and I had them come sit up at the front. And, halfway through the bus ride, I turned around because I knew that their stop was like 3 stops away. I just said, look, I'm going to need your help. Those kids back there, they listen to you. I said, if you're not behaving properly, they aren't going to either. I was like, I really would love for you to like show me your best behavior possible. Like just be positive, show
Mm-hmm.
them that they can behave well on the bus and like yeah, I was just like, I need your help. Like, that's how I opened the conversation, and everything changed from that day forward. That student was like on other kids if they weren't behaving properly. Um, like, and genuinely such a nice person. Like, natural leadership skills, totally positive. And a couple times I had to like just reinforce that. I was
Yep.
like, remember, like those kids listen to you. They're listening to, they're hanging off every word you say. Like sometimes they'd come up and sit at the front. If the bus was like kind of empty, the older kids would like to come sit at the front with the younger kids. Obviously, they asked first, but I was always like, yeah, yeah, come on up. And the little kids would be like, oh my gosh, tell me about this. And anyways, it was cute to watch. And our whole dynamic could have been different just based on that one interaction, right?
Yeah.
Like if I had put in my head that like this person is trash and they're going to be trouble and they're not going to be helpful, then I would have written them off and none of their good qualities would have come through. But I don't know, sometimes you just give them the benefit of the doubt,
Well, I mean,
test the
this
waters,
this
look at things from a different perspective.
and that's like I don't know. This is why I think ignorance is bliss is not a good thing
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
because this teacher, who I'm assuming was a dude,
Yeah.
uh, a like I shouldn't be able to assume that teacher's a dude, but you know,
The previous bus driver was. Yeah.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, the like this kid has probably never had anyone talk to them like you did before.
I mean, I hope that's not true,
I hope it's not
but
true either,
maybe.
but probably like someone in a position of authority
Right.
who said, "I need you."
Yeah.
It's not I need you to not be a fucking dick. It's like I need your help.
I need your help.
This only
Yeah.
works if I've got you on my side. Let's be a team together.
Yeah,
And then he
dude.
felt like a part of something
Yeah.
instead of constantly being alienated because he's having behavioral issues. And
Mhm.
that's what I said earlier, where it's like the kid's not being bad. He's just having a bad time. No one
Mhm.
taught him how to express himself or figure this shit out or work through his problems on his own.
Yeah.
He just,
Some kids aren't given the tools.
no, and
And
it's
maybe
so
that's
sad.
where ignorance is bliss isn't the best, because if your parent is ignorant, then they won't have the tools to provide you. Whereas if
Yeah.
your parent is informed and aware and engaged and educated about all these things, then they likely are more ready and able to like parent more effectively,
Yeah. And I
I
think
guess.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that's
Ignorance
why
is not bliss. It's
so many
debunked.
millennials are like, "Oh, we're breaking generational trauma.
Oh
We're
boy.
breaking generational trauma." Like, listen,
That's the ego. That's the ego, no?
everyone's been breaking generational trauma since forever.
Forever. Yeah, our
Like,
parents were
that's
doing it. They just weren't doing it with social media. So,
well, it's so true. And
yeah.
I think maybe the message is probably as clear as it's been, and that's why maybe
Mhm.
it feels like that's being used more. I think
Mhm.
people understand
As clear as it is so far,
so far.
our kids will be like, "Wow, our millennial great grandparents were so fucking awful. They really thought that, just talking to us about our emotions, blah blah blah. They'll probably have some next level
Well, and
fucking
like
stuff."
imagine what the future looks like. So we think, based off the conversation, it's a fair assumption that we would imagine a perfect society is one where everyone's happy and they love each other, and there's very little fighting and disagreement. There's a lot of respect and just laughter and fun and games and whatever, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
we're picturing like a beach day, just year round forever.
Right.
Uh, but what about like a society? Maybe a perfect society is one where it's all rules and respect based and discipline, and everything is just emotionless and cold, and maybe not cold, but there's a lack of warmth.
Okay.
There's not a lot of hugging because it's pointless. Not a lot of
Okay.
kissing because it's unsanitary.
Right. Yeah.
Sex becomes something completely foreign to us because it's the grossest thing in the world.
Cuz everybody's doing IVF and nobody does that
Well,
anymore.
yeah. So like,
Yeah.
what does it's easy for us to be like, we joke about breaking generational trauma, uh,
Okay.
and I think the inference about that is that we're creating a better future, a better society.
Right.
But
Yes.
who knows what it's going
Who
to turn
knows what we're doing?
into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Could be the end of days. Who knows?
I mean, I hope not.
Hopefully not.
I'm
Yeah.
not equipped for that. My kids will
Not
be.
equipped. Yeah, we will give them all the emotional
Yeah, yeah.
tools to
I'll
deal
give
with
them
that.
all my self help books.
Yeah. My whole
10
collection.
ways to
Here you go.
survive the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Number
Oh
one,
my
be
god.
single. It'll be way easier that way.
Yikes. I don't even want to get
Yikes.
into that conversation. But
All
yeah.
right.
All right.
Yes,
Well,
I'm gonna title this I Wish I Was an Idiot.
I thought you were going to call it tepid take.
Tepid takes would be a fun like little segment. What's a tepid
Catchy.
take with Colin?
Yeah.
Hot showers are overrated. It's just shit like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway. All right, friend. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Hey,
Yes.
love you. Love Jordan. Love all
Oh,
you listeners. I hope you have people that you love and are there for you when you need them. And go out and hug someone. That's my message.
there you go. I love it. I can't top that. So, what Colin said. Thanks, friends, and toodles.